Hello, YouTube. This is Largo64, and I'm going to continue now with not chapter, but part 7 of my videos of Letters from the Earth by Mark Twain. I'm going to go back just a little bit, not quite a whole paragraph, so I can get the flow going here again. The man said that these prodigious animals had heard about the ark and were coming to get saved from the flood, and not coming in pairs. They were all coming. They did not know the passengers were restricted to pairs, the man said, and wouldn't care a rap for the regulations anyway. They would sail in that ark or know the reason why. The man said the ark would not hold the half of them, and moreover, they were coming hungry and would eat up everything there was, including the menagerie and the family. All these facts were suppressed in the biblical account. You do not find a hint of them there. The whole thing is hushed up. Not even the names of those vast creatures are mentioned. It shows you that when people have left a reproachful vacancy in a contract, they can be as shady about it in Bibles as elsewhere. Those powerful animals would be of inestimable value to man now, when transportation is so hard pressed and expensive, but they are lost to him, all lost, and by Noah's fault. They all got drowned, some of them as much as 8 million years ago. Very well, the stranger told his tale, and Noah saw that he must get away before the monsters arrived. He would have sailed at once, but the upholsterers and decorators of the housefly's drawing room still had some finishing touches to put on, and that lost him a day. Another day was lost in getting the flies aboard, there being 68 billions of them, and the deity still afraid there might not be enough. Another day was lost in stowing 40 tons of selected filth for the flies' sustenance. Then at last Noah sailed, and none too soon, for the ark was only just sinking out of sight on the horizon when the monsters arrived, and added their lamentations to those of the multitude of weeping fathers and mothers and frightened little children who were clinging to the wave-washed rocks in the pouring rain, and lifting imploring prayers to an all-just and all-forgiving and all-pitying being who had never answered a prayer since those crags were builded, grain by grain, out of the sands, and would still not have answered one when the ages should have crumbled them to sand again. Letter 6. On the third day, about noon, it was found that a fly had been left behind. The return voyage turned out to be a long and difficult one on account of the lack of chart and compass, and because of the changed aspects of all coasts, the steadily rising water having submerged some of the lower landmarks and given to higher ones an unfamiliar look. But after 16 days of earnest and faithful seeking, the fly was found at last, and received on board with hymns of praise and gratitude. The family standing meanwhile uncovered, out of reverence for its divine origin. It was weary and worn, and had suffered somewhat from the weather, but was otherwise in good estate. Men and their families had died of hunger on barren mountain tops, but it had not lacked for food, the multitudinous corpses furnishing it in rank and rotten richness. Thus was the sacred bird providentially preserved. Providentially, that is the word, for the fly had not been left behind by accident. No, the hand of Providence was in it. There are no accidents. All things that happen for a purpose. They are foreseen from the beginning of time. They are ordained from the beginning of time, from the dawn of creation. The Lord had foreseen that Noah, being alarmed and confused by the invasion of the prodigious brevet fossils, would prematurely fly to sea unprovided with a certain invaluable disease. He would have all the other diseases and could distribute them among the new races of men as they appeared in the world, but he would lack one of the very best, typhoid fever, a malady which, when the circumstances are especially favorable, is able to utterly wreck a patient without killing him, for it can restore him to his feet with a long life in him, and yet deaf, dumb, and blind, crippled, and idiotic. The housefly is its main disseminator, and is more competent and more calamitously effective than all the other distributors of the dreaded scourge put together. And so, by foreordination, from the beginning of time, this fly was left behind to seek out a typhoid corpse, and feed upon its corruptions, and gum its legs with germs, and transmit them to the repeopled world for permanent business. From that one housefly, in the ages that have since elapsed, billions of sickbeds have been stocked, billions of wrecked bodies sent tottering about the earth, and billions of cemeteries recruited with the dead. It is most difficult to understand the disposition of the Bible God. It is such a confusion of contradictions, of watery instabilities and iron firmness, of goody-goody abstract morals made out of words, and concreted hell-born ones made out of acts, of fleeting kindness repented of in permanent malignities. However, when after such much puzzling you get at the key to his disposition, you do at last arrive at a sort of understanding of it. With a most quaint and juvenile and astonishing frankness, he has furnished that key himself. It is jealousy. I expect that to take your breath away. You are aware, for I've already told you in an earlier letter, that among human beings jealousy ranks distinctly as a weakness, a trademark of small minds, a property of all small minds, yet a property which even the smallest is ashamed of, and when accused of its possession will lyingly deny it and resent the accusation as an insult. Jealousy. Do not forget it. Keep it in mind. It is the key. With it, you will become you will come to partly understand God as we go along. Without it, nobody can understand him. As I have said, he has openly held up this treasonous key himself for all to see. He says naively, outspokenly, and without suggestion of embarrassment, I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. You see, it is only another way of saying, I, the Lord thy God, am a small God and fretful about small things. He was giving a warning, but he could not bear the thought of any other God. He could not bear the thought of any other God getting some of the Sunday compliments of his comical little human race. He wanted all of them for himself. He valued them. To him they were riches, just as tin money is to a Zulu. But wait, I am not fair. I am misrepresenting him. Prejudice is beguiling me into saying what is not true. He did not say he wanted all the adulations. He said nothing about not being willing to share them with his fellow gods. What he said was, Thou shalt have no other gods before me. It is quite a different thing, and puts him in a much better light, I confess it. There was an abundance of gods, the woods were full of them, as the saying is, and all he demanded was that he should be ranked as high as the others. Not above any of them, not below any of them. He was willing that they should fertilize earthly virgins, but not on any better terms than he could have for himself in his turn. He wanted to be held their equal. This he insisted upon in the clearest language. He would have no other gods before him. They could march abreast with him, but none of them could head the procession, and he did not claim the right to head it himself. Do you think he was able to stick to that upright and creditable position? No, he could keep a bad resolution forever, but he couldn't keep a good one for a month. By and by he threw aside and calmly claimed to be the only God in the entire universe. As I was saying, jealousy is the key. All through his history it is present and prominent. It is the blood and bone of his disposition. It is the basis of his character. How small a thing can wreck his composure and disorder his judgment if it touches the raw of his jealousy. And nothing warms up this trait so quickly and so surely and so exaggeratedly as a suspicion that some competition with the God-trust is impending. The fear that if Adam and Eve ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, they would be as gods, so fired his jealousy that his reason was affected, and he could not treat those poor creatures either fairly or charitably, or even refrain from dealing cruelly and criminally with their blameless posterity. And that's the end of this episode. We're coming up to 10 minutes.